Where can I look so it looks like I'm looking at you? Hi. I just had last week a recording with a friend, Sarah, at www.sacralsteam.com. You can find all of her goods, her courses, her herbs, her yoni steam stools. And she asked me really great questions. We talk about this practice of embodiment, and I looked back and I felt back on my answer, and there were some very fine lines and subtleties that I wish I would have made clear, because the practice of embodiment is so important to me, and somatic modalities are so important in the work that I do and in my own sensing and feeling my way through life. And so on this happy solstice day, where we are paying gratitude to the sun for all that it's brought to this point, and also sending messages with it to the other world where it is going back to, so slowly and subtly, even though it's like still 90-degree days. We are in the very early stages of the diminishing of light. And on that note, I have this burst of space for creativity today, and I haven't even had an opportunity to put jewelry on or to take a shower. I just wanted to dive in to all of these things that have been piling up around my heart to share. And so thank you, Sarah. If you ever get to see this, thank you, Sarah, for asking me. She said, like, we talk about embodiment and we use that word so much, but on the podcast, she was saying, what can we say for listeners to really have a grounded understanding or inner knowing around what this embodiment business is that we keep talking about? So I wrote a little something down, and it came to me as I was like in one of my loved by the water sessions with myself. And so I thought, well, it must be meant to be shared, because it is not just for me. The waters are for everyone. And so these 3 words came to me as I was pondering and opening to the currency of embodiment. What is the real value of embodied anything? Embodiment. The 3 words are emulation, empowerment, and embodiment. And so my first challenge for you is to go and research the Latin origins behind these words, because they bear weight and they bear forward meaning to today. And so what is that EM at the beginning of those 3 words? What is that EM about? And then embodiment is to viscerally feel or experience the somatic attunement to an energy, color, or an emotion. And so I say energy, color, and emotion almost interchangeably. Energy is energy. And so we can either, have you ever seen people get these like auric pictures taken and they're different colors, like kind of like all around them? That's energy. And I always wondered if they were in a different mood on a different day, would their auric color show up very differently? I think so. So this is not my research definition of embodiment. This is my personal practice definition of embodiment. And I'm going to say it again, and I'll attach it to this video if possible. To viscerally feel or experience somatic attunement to an energy, color, or an emotion. And again, energy, color, and emotion are kind of interchangeable for me, because energy at play or energy in motion could be a color, it could be a word, a feelings word. And so the word visceral and somatic are very kind of locked into this word embodiment. Now, so for example, embodied anxiety is uncomfortable, right? So if you are attuned to anxiety and you're viscerally feeling it, like in the tissues of your skin, if you're feeling itchy, if you're like having that sensation, you're not actually on the outside, like, but on the inside, you're viscerally in your chest cavity feeling that. I would call that a visceral response. And also in the soma, in the knowingness and wisdom of your body, absent of your mind, absent of your thoughts, absent of the executive functioning, your body's wisdom, the soma, is just giving you all this information via the visceral channels. And if you are thinking anxious thoughts or there's anxiety in your environment and you're attuned to it and it's embodied, it's inside your body. Your body is taking in and experiencing the anxiety. Now this works both ways. Like you can embody something from externally, from your environment, from your own mind, or also there is the practice of cultivating an inner space and then embodying it like this versus like this. Both are body-based and both are related to empowerment and emulation. What am I emulating? What am I taking on and like coming into, what am I synchronizing with? Yeah, like if my body is a melody, what is it harmonizing with? Or what is it syncing up with? Also a metronome. I think that's the word I wanted. Yeah, or like a pendulum, right? It goes at a certain speed. And then the inner ticking of the cells of my body. What metronome am I syncing up with? What frequency is that metronome at? And is that metronome in my head? Is it coming from the center of my heart, from a place of inner stillness? Is it coming from my belly and like intuitively what's going on in my belly? Is it coming from my child who is in the room next to me and is freaking out? You know, as a mom, like I know what that one's like. I still struggle with that one today. So let's take this example of embodied anxiety, because these are the fine lines that I wanted to caress and tease out from my interview with Sarah and from the kind of the ending and the wrap up. Sorry, I'm just checking my notes here. So embodied anxiety, based on all those like examples I just gave, you can imagine would be uncomfortable. But then also having that embodied anxiety allows you to physically move the energy. So embodied anxiety, while it's uncomfortable, it's not bad. I want to make that distinction clear. Because something that's not helpful is being stuck in your head and just having these anxious thoughts like a hamster wheel gerbling here and never really letting your body catch up with and give you soma signal to tell you like, hey, there's something going on here in the background and it's kind of depleting your life force energy. So quite literally getting stuck in your head is not as helpful as embodied anxiety, where you're getting these clear soma signals that like something's going on. And now, because it's not just stuck here and it's here, you can do all kinds of like moving to like sort it out, if you will, or jogging or punching like one of those beating bags. Obviously I don't do that because I don't even know what it's called. There's so many different ways that you can engage the body in an embodied practice to work with, move, and play with energy. So the sense or feeling of anxiety is lodged somewhere you can't touch or move. So getting stuck in your head, that's where the feeling, any kind of feeling really, if like we have sadness and it gets lodged in our hearts and it gets this like embodied sadness, and it's only embodied when we come to feel it in the body, and we can paint it, or we can talk about it, or we can sing it or hum it, right? Like that's when we know that we're only using this as a checkpoint, knowing, right? Like it can be embodied. It's actually usually embodied first, and then we come to know that it's embodied. So the sense or feeling of anxiety being lodged somewhere that can't be touched or moved. So getting stuck in the head is one thing, but then also you can have an embodied anxiety and it can get lodged or stuck, or an embodied sadness, or just an embodied color that just doesn't look good for you that day. And so this practice of embodiment is not just about like movement and sensing the soma, visceral feeling, and vibrating, you know, like every cell in your being will vibrate with that because that's what's in your body. Sometimes some like things can get lodged and stuck, and that's embodied as well. And it's helpful when we come into the embodiment mindset, because once we're in the embodiment mindset, it's now there's a whole consciousness around that stuck or lodged, like I said, sadness or stress or anxiety. But then also like we celebrate when it's like, oh, this like embodied love or embodied ecstasy, you know, like these are the embodiment practices. But these are the part of the practice that these are like the fine teased out pieces that I don't think get talked about or expressed very clearly in like the pop media, Instagram, Snapchat world. Embodiment is really just about being aligned with your body as a mega ally through somatic signals and visceral responses. And embodied confidence, yes. Embodied sadness, boo. No. Embodied confidence, yes. Embodied sadness, yes. Because the embodiment practice, that lens, it empowers us. It allows us to meet an energy with more than just our minds. So that's where empowerment comes into this. So I said at the beginning, there's embodiment, empowerment, and emulation. So like, what am I emulating? Like, what am I taking and like being? Whether it's from my own mind, whether it's from my field around me, whether it's from something I've been taking in and listening to. Like my daughter has been listening to these, oh my gosh, these like awful, silly pop, like depression emo songs. And then the other day she's like, Mom, I'm depressed. Like my life is so awful. And I was like, girl, I just took you to like Seven Tubs Recreation Center, which is this like magical initiatory place in nature where you slide down 7 rock faces into 7 like big tubs of water. Like you plunge into them and you come back up and you swim to the next one with her, like one of her best friends from school. And I was like, how could she, like, this is not matching. Like she's emulating something from her field. And then I remembered like she's going around singing this song. Gosh, and just like the one part came to me, I was going to try to tell you the song. Something, my friends are heathens. Oh, take it slow. Anyways, I can't remember the melody, but one of the lines is, my friends are heathens, take it slow. So if you're like you're onto this, you would know what that song is. Anyways, that's just an example of how, you know, emulation can work. Like she actually had this embodied from what she was like listening to and taking in without an immense amount of consciousness or intentionality. She then was emulating through embodiment. Like she began to embody that energy of that music. And that's great because then she's able to talk about it, and we were able to pass through it. However, last night we had this whole like faux fracture experience that we ended up going to the hospital and didn't need to. So there's that. And then meanwhile, it's like, what am I needing to be aware of that I'm emulating in this whole mother-daughter connection? And then where's the power? Where's the empowerment from the embodiment practice that I'm engaged in? And then how can I bring empowerment to my daughter in her embodiment practices? So that's it. Emulation, empowerment, embodiment. I hope I've covered those EMs, and I challenge you to go and do your own deep dig research on the Latin behind this and the meaning. And this is just like my perspective and my framework when that I bring to the practice of embodiment. Let me check my notes and make sure I left you with all the goodies I wanted to leave you with. Oh, this is the last part. This is important. Embodied self. And this is where I think Sarah and I were coming out of. The embodied self is a state that I recently tried to describe with Sarah from Sacral Steam. I notice that when I'm in an embodied essence, when I'm aware of my essence, when I am embodied in it, I feel warm, slow, glowy waves emanating, another EM, emanating from me and returning to me seamlessly. I'm an emulation of myself. When I feel disembodied, mostly due to embodied anxiety, I feel somewhat sharp electrical pulses snapping off of me, depleting me of any return, leaving me feeling zapped and irritable. So one thing I've done when I feel this way is to visit the nearest water, where I can walk into it, walk to it, and send those zaps into the water and ask the water to return to me through the air, a more fluid form of that energy. So that was like a personal journal note that I wanted to share with you about the difference for me of being able to know when I'm embodying myself, when I'm embodying my highest good, my highest version of myself, or my deepest, most like sacred essence. I know what that feels like in my subtle energy body. And I know when I'm not emulating the core and essence of myself, and when I'm embodying anxiety, because it feels like those zaps and those electrical shocks. And anyone that comes near me can feel them too. And I do go down to the water a lot when I have like a level 8 kind of disembodiment or embodied anxiety, which acts like disembodiment. I'll go to the water, and just by the very nature of being near the water, I don't actually say that, what I said in my journal note, I don't actually say that, but I feel that, and I'm conscious that water and currency and electricity and my field have a special relationship. Most, like all human bodies, have that relationship with bodies of water, but I bring a certain consciousness to it that I know almost like I will get in a bathtub even just to like recharge my etheric body. But moving water outside in nature with all of its minerals and all of its like magical currency from wherever it's coming from, it really has brought me back into an openness to feel myself and emulate my own core sacred well essence. And when I'm in that state, embodiment and the practice or the mindset of embodiment feels so life-giving. When I'm in that embodied anxiety / like feeling disembodied, disemboweled, really, I can I feel the effects of that. And that's also good because it's somatic signaling for me to get to the water and to transmute. So I hope this all made sense, and I hope it was helpful. That's my little mini vignette on embodiment practice and all of those EM words: emulate, emanate, empowerment, embowelment. I don't know. I don't know if that's a word without the dis in front of it. So that's all. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in, and I wish you the greatest source of flow with your embodiment practice that you bring on in your journey. Bye.